Hey everyone.
Aisha, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Do you mind? Can you share with me how I should pronounce your name?
Aishwarya.
Aishvidya. Okay. And do you like to go by
Aishwarya. I
Aish
think
or
it's
Aish?
Aish is fine. Aish is fine.
Aish.
Thanks for
Okay.
that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah.
All right. So hey everyone, welcome to the Hitchikersway podcast. And today, we are joined with the founder of Fondo. He is David Phillips, and Fondo does everything from bookkeeping to finding tax credits for your startup. It's an accounting based startup, and based out of SF, and David has seen an exit with Hackbright, as well as, and also co-founded a company called Bloomjoy, which actually pivoted into Fondo. So, hey, David, how's it going?
Good, Aish. Great to see you. How are you doing?
I'm super fine today. I just want to start this with really the fundamental thing which comes to a person's life. Uh, it's the childhood, right? Um, Can you give a little bit of background to yourself from your childhood and how that really shaped you into a person you are today?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I was born in Boston and grew up in Massachusetts. My mom is from Guatemala. My dad is from Boston. So grew up, bilingual, learned Spanish really young, and had my grandmother lived with us for a lot of the time, and so I had two siblings. I have an older sister and a younger brother, so I'm the middle child. And yeah, grew up. My dad was, CS major, worked in tech, and so I kind of had that, kind of aspiration to do that growing up. But I guess kind of typical kid. Played soccer, played basketball. Um, didn't really have like a super entrepreneurial spirit at a young age. That didn't really come to me until I was in university. So, but yeah, I was born and raised in Massachusetts, moved to California when I was about 10 years old. And yeah, I've been in California ever since.
So you always wanted to do something in tech, but you never knew you were entrepreneurial from the beginning.
Yeah, that's right.
From there, I know that there's a lot of things that happened, but I just want to, I just go into Fondo. Um, can you brief your journey from university to Fondo? Is in a
Yeah,
very
definitely.
yeah yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I did community college for 2 years, and I that's when I first learned about accounting. I knew that I wanted to transfer to UC Santa Barbara, um, and and I knew I wanted to do business of some kind. And UCSB doesn't really have a business school, but they have a what they call business economics and accounting program. And so, I took my first accounting course in community college, and it really clicked with me, surprisingly, and I really enjoyed it. And so that kind of started my path in the accounting world. And so, fast forward a couple of years, I transferred to UCSB, was doing their business economics program, got into the accounting program as well, and started learning about this world of public accounting, about all these, they call them the big four accounting firms, the largest accounting firms in the world. They have hundreds of thousands of employees doing accounting for big corporations. And so that's when I got my introduction to the world of accounting and the business of accounting. And so while I was at university, I also discovered in their engineering school, they had an entrepreneurship program. And like I mentioned, like I always knew I wanted to maybe do tech. And, I thought, entrepreneurship sounds cool. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. But I liked accounting and I liked tech, and entrepreneurship sounded cool. So I signed up for the program, and that really clicked with me. And a friend of mine that was also doing accounting and entrepreneurship, we said, like, let's start a company together. What's a company that we can start? We have no money. What's a company we can start? So we decided to start a tutoring company. And so started a company called University Tutors in college, where we matched university students with high school students to help them with like math tutoring. And that was my first like startup experience. And so I learned a lot about, how do we get customers? How do you build a team? And I think we made like $10,000 in our first year. And it was just an incredibly, that was like a really powerful experience for me to realize, like, wow, like you can start a company and you can, sell things to people and you can hire people and you don't need permission to do it. You just do it. You go on the website, you create your corporation, you go to Craigslist, you post your ad and see if anybody wants to buy your services. You hire someone to help do the work. And it was just like this really great experience. And so I loved that. And so then I knew I wanted to do startups. And so I had a job offer to come work at Deloitte, which is one of the big accounting firms here in San Francisco. And I was like, I'm going to take this job and I'm going to figure out how to get into tech. And so I moved to San Francisco, started studying for the CPA exam, took the first part and passed that. And then just really still wanted to just do a tech startup. I didn't really want to do accounting. I knew I wanted to do a tech startup. So I started going to like hackathons, and I subscribed to this newsletter called Startup Digest, which is, it was started by Chris McCann here in San Francisco, and then they got acquired by Techstars, and it's still around. But that newsletter like told me about all these like hackathons and things happening in SF. And so I started to go, and I ended up winning first place at this hackathon called Startup Weekend. And then I just never went back to Deloitte. So we won first place. We ended up raising a small amount of money, and that was like my first startup, and haven't looked back since. That was back in 2010, I believe, 2010 or 11.
Hmm. So from there, you co-founded Hackbright, or did
Yeah.
University Tutors became Hackbright? Hackbright was a separate
So
thing.
university, yeah. So it was a
Yeah.
separate thing. So basically, University Tutors, I was kind of like, I was trying to figure out how to scale that as like a startup. It was a tutoring thing we did in Santa Barbara. And then, while I was working at Deloitte, I was trying to learn how to code and build the website and build a marketing platform to match students and tutors. And that just kind of fizzled out. Then the hackathons happened. I won that, and then we raised some money. That was for an idea called SafeX AI. It was a software platform that sort of aggregated all this data on the internet and sold it to different media companies. And I did that, just for about a year, and then me and my co-founder went separate ways. It just wasn't a good co-founder match, which happens a lot with startups. So I learned a lot from that first experience, and then continued my journey learning how to code, and then started Hackbright. And so we started Hackbright in 2012.
Nice. And then you built Hackbright with all coding boot camps, and
Yeah.
after that, you sold Hackbright for $8 million, I presume.
That's right. Yeah. So we grew the
18
business
million,
to
18
about,
million.
so we grew
Sorry.
to about almost 4 million in revenue. And we bootstrapped the company. And then we got acquired by Capella University in 2016 for 18 million. And that was also a really, a huge learning experience for me, really great experience trying to, build something from nothing and sort of see the whole life cycle of a startup from like, the very beginning, when we tried many different ideas and ended up pivoting and ultimately built Hackbright. And yeah, so that was a really, really awesome company.
That's totally right, actually. So you finished building Hack. You finished exiting with Hack, right? And then you wanted to found a company. Then you started Bloomjoy. So what
Yes.
was some? Uh, was there anything like when you are a first time founder, you make a lot of mistakes, but when you are doing it when you're doing it for the second time, you make sure that you don't make the mistakes that you made the first time. What kind of mistakes did you avoid while building Bloomjoy?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. I think, I think for the first company, um, especially for the first like software company, you spend so much time and effort building the software, and you have this great vision, and you want to build something and put it in front of people, and and as for the first project, usually it's like you're very attached to that, and you kind of assume if I build this vision that I have, everyone's going to love it because like I just know this is such a good idea. I just have to build it, and then it's going to be great. Once we build it, we're going to get tons of users, and then we're going to grow, and that's about as far as you think. And then I think what happens is you realize that first time around, like, oh wow, like it's not just building it, it's like, well, building it correctly and maybe iterating several times, and then like getting it in front of the right people and figuring out how to convince them to use that product. And so there's just so much hard work involved in just going from like idea to like being a startup that has users, that you can continue to build on. And so like for a second time founder, third time founder, it's like, okay, you kind of take a step back, and before you even build anything, you start to think about, okay, what problem is this solving? What problem do I want to solve? Who do I want to solve the problem for? And what is sort of the quickest way to solve some version of that problem for that person. And then you kind of start from there, and you kind of keep an open mind to see how deep that problem goes, or how maybe that problem doesn't exist the way you thought and you have to completely pivot, or you kind of expand what you're doing. So it's like that's kind of like the first approach, I think, as a second time founder is, yeah, back to who has the problem, what's the problem that I want to solve, who has the problem, and like what is my solution, what is the first version of my solution going to be, and kind of having that like first version mindset of like, yeah, this is the first version, I know there's going to be different iterations of this.
So you gotta be very clear of why you're starting it and for whom you're starting it. And if you find more problems along the way, you need to go more deeper on it, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hit it right. You hit it exactly right. Like you have to listen to the customer. You have to learn about the problem more and be open to iterating as you need to.
That's amazing. So you started Bloomjoy and you went into YC. Uh, but you did apply for YC a lot of times, right? So did you
Yeah.
formulate? But looking in hindsight, did you formulate any thesis on how you got in the last time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you know, getting into YC is its own. There's a lot of challenges on the way to getting into YC. So I definitely, applied a couple times before and was rejected. And then finally, we applied for Hackbright actually, and then we didn't get in. And then, and then finally got in with the Bloomjoy idea. And you know, I think doing the YC application is super helpful to just sort of like think about your startup. It asks, the application asks a lot of good questions like, what are you building? Who are you building this for? What have you learned from talking to that user so far? And it's just like a lot of good questions about where you're at with your idea, and how are you splitting equity with your co-founder? Like just all these sort of important things that you should be thinking about in the early days. And so I think in retrospect, the time that we did get into YC, I think we had a we had a strong understanding of who the user was, what problem we were solving, and we had demonstrated traction against solving that problem. So I think it's really, I think the more and more I learn about, building startups, the more like, yeah, I mean, it's just more and more a reminder of how important some of these simple things are, right? Like solving a problem for a specific user and, getting some traction with that user base. Those are kind of simple, you think they're kind of simple concepts but they're just so hard to do. I think it's definitely not easy, but it's a simple kind of framework.
Um, so, um, so Bloomjoy got into YC, and you, how was Bloomjoy when it got into YC? Like, what was the stage it was in? And you told it had a decent amount of traction, and that really contributed to your to you getting in, right? What was the state?
Yeah, yeah. So we were, it was kind of in the idea stage. We didn't actually have the product built yet, but we had the solution built for one customer. And so basically, we were building a marketing platform for, basically, it was a marketing platform for Facebook pages to monetize their audience. So most Facebook pages back then, this was like in 2018, that had like 1 million followers or more, didn't have a clear path to monetizing their audience. And so what we discovered was, one of the most successful ways to monetize your audience on Facebook back then was through a content site. So sites like BuzzFeed and viral content was still pretty popular back then. And so, one way to monetize your 1 million person audience was to create a content site and then partner with other large pages to share each other's content to sort of drive traffic, get awareness, and then monetize through ads. And so we built a platform. We wanted to build a platform that made it really easy to get your links shared by other large pages. And so that was the initial idea. We had one customer that we were making like $10,000 a month doing this manually for, and we wanted to build a platform for it and scale it to initially all Facebook pages, and then all creators that had large audiences online.
So even if you have one customer, you should really know the market and it's the potential of your idea, right? Before
Yeah,
you start with the company and get into YC as well. So
it
here most
definitely
people
helps,
talk.
and I'll
Yeah,
definitely.
please go on.
Well, I definitely wanted to say, there's definitely, there's not just one way to get into YC. I think every company maybe has a different trajectory, a different story, and there's different advantages for different types of companies. So I think this part, that definitely worked for us, and I think it can work for other companies. But there's also other stories of, different paths that also landed people at YC. So yeah, it's interesting.
It's very mixed, like the stories which got into YC. So most
Yeah.
people talk about getting into YC, right? We also spoke about it. But what most people don't talk about is that your startup journey after YC. How has it changed before and after YC?
So, so with Bloomjoy, we ran that company as Bloomjoy for about 2 years after YC, and it just wasn't working out ultimately. And the market kind of changed for our target user, and the platform we built wasn't necessarily as helpful as we had hoped it would be. And so we were kind of running out of money, and we were exploring different options at that point. We had a team of about 20 people. We wanted to help. We didn't want to like shut down the company. right? We wanted to sell the company and find someone to acquire us that would take on our team and, you know, return some value to our investors. And so we kind of went through that process and talked to a handful of different companies that were interested in acquiring Bloomjoy. We like narrowed it in on one acquirer and like went through the whole due diligence process. And you know, we're basically negotiating like the final term sheet, and it just we just were there were a lot of sticking points that we just couldn't get fully aligned on, and so that kind of fell apart at the last minute there. But they did hire our team, which was really good, but we just didn't end up selling the company, and so at that point we still had, you know, $40,000 left in the bank. The team that was running, you know, the Bloomjoy business was now hired by this other company. And, you know, my co-founders basically decided to move on. My co-founders, Robbie and Jason, who are amazing, they decided to move on, you know, from Bloomjoy. And so I kind of was like, you know, we have some money left in the bank. You know, I want to try to pivot the company. You know, I don't want to shut this down. And, you know, I'm just going to start another company anyway. So, you know, might as well just keep going with this company. And so, yeah, that's when I pivoted Bloomjoy to Fondo. And so that was back in the very end of 2019.
There's a lot of crisis.
So, yeah,
in
so back to
between,
your
right?
question. Yeah, I mean, there's always a lot of crisis with startups. I feel like, you know, as a founder, you're basically constantly getting your startup out of horrible situations, like constantly, you know, like you're constantly trying to get it out of the situation of having like no revenue, no customers, no product, and then it's like on to the next fire once you solve that.
So, do you have any framework for handling crisis? Like, how do you battle with crisis when everything is falling apart?
I think what has helped a lot, and you know, just having been doing startups now for a long time, like I've definitely developed this, you know, kind of understanding that you know, it doesn't always go your way. You know, it more likely will completely not go your way, and so just kind of having that mindset of like, this is not going to work. It's not supposed to work. So like, I got to like figure out how to make it work, and just kind of like sort of approaching the problem like that, and sort of being kind of level headed about expectations. Like, I'm extremely ambitious and optimistic, but also, you know, grounded
Some
in the
things
truth
cannot be.
that, yeah, it's more likely to not work than it is to work. And so, you know, when things don't work, you know, it's a roller coaster every day. It's just like, okay, that was expected. Like, it wasn't supposed to work. So like, now I got to figure out how to make it work tomorrow. You know, you just kind of got to keep iterating and trying and, you know, getting up when you get knocked down, like, constantly.
That's amazing. So, you do accounting. You're an accounting based
Yeah.
startup, and you've been into accounting for a while. What's your views about crypto accounting? It has been
Yeah.
going
So
down a
crypto,
bit. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, crypto accounting is interesting. There's a lot of complexities to it. You know, there's a lot of moving parts with it. You've got, you know, the cryptocurrency itself is like changing in value kind of constantly, and you have to like track the value of it when you received it, you know, when you're spending it, and then at like random points in between, and you have to track it, you know, on different parts of your financial statements, you know, from your balance sheet, your profit and loss statement, your cash flow. Like, it's just everywhere, and it's really complicated because it also doesn't necessarily hook into like traditional, you know, bookkeeping softwares, and it's really volatile. You know, and so if you're building software to support crypto, you have to, you know, you have to support all the sort of mainstream cryptos, but then you also have to support like the edge cases where you have, you know, random other tokens. And so it's a really complicated problem. And, you know, you could end up building a bunch of features for a use case that just doesn't exist tomorrow. And it's really volatile. I mean, I think crypto is definitely, we've had a very like intense crypto winter, but it's definitely been coming back for the past like 6 months. And I think I think it definitely goes through these cycles. But one of our customers at Fondo, one of my friends, Arnav Bothla, the founder of
Coin
a new
books.
startup now, but yeah, Coinbook. He was building Coinbooks, and then he recently pivoted to a new company. But he like faced this whole firsthand. Like he built the best crypto bookkeeping software, and the market just completely changed. And he was really adaptable, and kind of saw it coming and pivoted really with really good timing. And now he's working on something really interesting. Um,
Layer
and
up
and
right now,
so yeah, it's
right?
just a really now he's working on Layer Up, and it's just a really hard problem to solve. I mean, and really smart people have had a hard time solving it. And it's
I
also,
just want to
the problem
include
with it is
this.
like it. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, no. Please go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's like
You
it's
go.
really hard to solve, and then it's also like it's so uncertain whether it's going to be a problem tomorrow or not, right? Because the market is still so volatile.
That's amazing. I just want to include this. Coin books, right? You were talking about
Yeah.
Arnav Vatla. So there was someone working. My brother, Mohan Sundar, was actually in the founding team. Was one of the founding engineers in Coin books.
Oh, no
Actually,
way.
yeah, he was. He's been with you in some calls, like sometimes, and
Yeah,
he told me about you,
I remember
Mohan
him.
Sundar.
Awesome. Yeah, he's awesome. That's awesome. What a
Yeah,
small world. I didn't know that was your brother.
it's totally amazing. Yeah.
That's
So
amazing.
going back, what do you think? So now let's talk about ambitions. Um, Fondo is doing really great. So no, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go into ambitions now. I just want to go back to your first customer. How did you get your first
Yeah,
customer, and how did you scale from there? I know Fondo has over thousands of customers right now.
yeah, yeah. So we got our first customer on Twitter actually. So when we decided to pivot, I've always been on spending way too much time on Twitter, but I saw on Twitter this guy that I follow, Sam Parr, who's the founder of The Hustle and now has the My First Million podcast. He tweeted about like, "Hey, we're looking for a new bookkeeper. Who's good out there?" And so that really kicked it off. Like we didn't even have a website yet. I messaged him on Twitter and I said, "Hey Sam, we just launched Fondo. We'd love to support you for bookkeeping. Like, can I pitch you, you and your team?" And so at that point, then I like made a website, put together like a sales deck, found a friend who is a really good accountant to join me on some of these calls, and yeah, started doing the whole pitch process. Pitched Adam Ryan, who was his president at the time, and Ed, who was like their head of operations. And so anyway, went through the whole pitch process. That's where I like built the sales deck, built the website, and we closed them as our first customer, and they were our only customer for like 4 months. And then we decided to launch within the YC community, which is where we started to get a lot of traction.
You actually got Sampar to accept your offer in between. That's so amazing. He's such an incredible man. I love the First Million podcast.
Yeah, yeah, me
So
too. It's great. Him and Sean are great. Yeah, it was not easy to get them as a customer, but we got
that's really amazing. That's what founders
them.
do, right? Somehow you figured out to get Sampar as your first customer. That's that's really inspiring. So
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean it was fun.
what do you think does the future look like for Fondo right now? What's your next ambition?
So we're really excited about the future of Fondo. most founders, as you know, are busy trying to get product market fit, and every single company has to file taxes each year. And so we're really excited about automating that for founders. We built a platform that automates bookkeeping, taxes, and tax credits for startups. And one of our big value propositions is automation when you want it, and then white glove CPA support when you need it. And so we also have a team of CPAs to really give founders peace of mind that everything is being done by a professional and they get all their questions asked, when they need it. And so, the platform has just been getting, better and better. Super excited about our team and everything that we're accomplishing, and, really excited about the future right now.
That's amazing. So, here's more interesting. Let's make it more interesting. Let's say tomorrow AGI has achieved. Don't think of me as someone delusional, but I think it's still going on with Sam borrowing 7 trillion for building God. Okay. So,
Yeah.
what will Fondo do? How will Fondo provide value when a post AGI era when AGI is actually achieved? Yep.
Totally. I mean, and we're really excited about that future where AI enables us all to live better lives, provide more productivity for our companies, and just overall be a huge win for society. So we're very bullish on AI, and at Fondo we are as well. I mean, we really see the future where the cost of all of these things gets driven down, which is going to benefit customers a lot. And so we're totally aligned with building the best product that for the best value for all of our customers, and also keeping in the loop the CPAs and the accountants that really bring that peace of mind, and to the extent that our customers want that. Customers that we work with, we work with the founders who don't want to do this on their own, and they want to work with a trusted partner, and they also want to work with a trusted software. So it's kind of that balance of the automation and the easy to use, but then also having that peace of mind, that CPA, right? That maybe is not going to hallucinate with the really complicated question that you might have. I think we all know AI is getting better, and the hallucinations will get minimized. But I think at least now our customers really appreciate that the ability to talk to a CPA when they need it, to get that advice.
That's amazing. So I just want to go back to getting customers. Getting customer
Yes,
segment.
and Aish, I'm sorry, I actually have another
Uh,
call. So
sorry.
should we do this as the last question, do you think?
Okay, let's. I'll do the last. I'll go to the last question. So
And we can
I'm
also do another call in the future if you want.
sure. That's totally fine. I'll just finish this. Actually, the last question is kind of big. So I'll just read a quote from Terence McKenna. I just, it's a quote about courage, and you just need to, give an example which really aligns with the quote that happened in your life, any time in your life, not only Fondo, throughout your life, and we'll see the correlation and how it is actually so cool, right? So I'll read the quote now. Nature loves courage. You make the commitment, and nature will respond to that commitment by removing impossible obstacles. Dream the impossible dream, and the world will not grind you under. It will lift you up. This is the trick. This is what all these teachers and philosophers who really counted, who really touched the alchemical gold, this is what they understood. This is the shamanic dance in the waterfall. This is how magic is done, by hurling yourself into the abyss and discovering it's a feather bed. I think it really aligns with what founders do right now, right? It's really
Yeah,
dark. So, do you have
I love
any
that quote.
stories from the
Yeah, no, it's an amazing quote, and it definitely resonates a lot, I think, with all founders. It's like, as a founder, you're really ambitious and you're really optimistic and you have a big goal. And I think it's super important to have a really strong commitment to that goal and push through all of the rejection and pain and, you know, problems that you're going to face along the way. I think having the courage to stay committed to your goal is going to make you succeed, you know, because you're going to get rejected 1,000 times. Your product's going to break 1,000 times. People are going to complain to you. VCs are going to tell you your idea sucks or that your market sucks. And you just got to keep moving through. You know, you got to stay committed to your goal and have the courage to stay committed to your goal and just not give up. And you will succeed.
Yeah, that's amazing. So David, thanks for being here, and I know you have a meeting right now. So really, thanks for taking the time, and we've come to the end.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's great to meet you in person after all of our conversations on Twitter. And yeah,
Yeah.
thanks again.
So I'll hit you up with a DM when the podcast is out. So cheers for now. Bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.